Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We liked our movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained as pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey,
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Tennis Podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about movies that shaped their childhood. I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And I'm Sweetie with a Y.
Oh my God, it is... What is today? Tuesday? Wednesday?
Know.
I think it's Wednesday. So, we actually watched this movie last Friday and have had some small delay on recording because here's what happened, guys. We got vaccinated. We're fully vaccinated. We're pumped. We go out to dinner, have a really good time. We eat inside. Awesome. So much fun. We get blizzards after. Even more fun. We go to watch the movie. It's like 9 o'clock. Oops. So we watched the movie, but didn't really have the energy to do the podcasting after. So we're like, we'll do it later. And then later became 5 days later. But that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. So my choice this week, or last week, but this week. And, you know, as is typical of these last couple of months, I'm like feeling 80s rom-coms all over the place. And, you know, 80s rom-coms in general, like not the best movies in a lot of ways, but, you know, they really are, I find them very uplifting and, you know, nostalgic in a lot of ways. And this one fits the bill because, I remember specifically my older sister Liz and mom loved this movie, and I was a little too young, but I like pretended to like it too because I was like, "Ooh, this is like so cool! Like my mom and sister like this," and I just got into it. But it also features one of my favorite hot actors of the '80s, so I grew to love it. And that movie is Her Alibi. So, favorite hot actor from the 80s that I just mentioned is a man named Tom Selleck.
Just a man.
Just a man named Tom Selleck.
Man.
Here's the deal with Tom Selleck. Hot. He's hot in a lot of ways.
He's rugged.
He's rugged, right? So he's that rugged hot, which you're like, okay. Didn't really think I was like into, let's say. Especially as maybe like an 8-year-old. But even I knew as an 8-year-old, handsome fella, right? He's tall. He's got a great head of hair. He's got a great mustache. Not good actor.
Tall,
not really
dark
sure.
And handsome. Great. You don't think he's a great actor?
Well, he feels a little one note. But we have covered a movie previously with him, Three Men and a Little Lady. If you remember that story we skipped over, the original Three Men and a Baby.
Who needs him?
Yeah, because just we've seen it that movie, but isn't that familiar?
Have I? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's cute, but I just think the second one was more like is better in a lot of ways, and that's the one we watch all the time. Anyway, so Tom Selleck, known for Three Men and a Little Baby, or Three Men and a Baby franchise, and then the show Magnum P.I. If you remember, also from the, I want to say like 70s, he wore these like tight jean shorts. He was 80s. I think 80s. Tight shorts. Drove like some red hot rod car and was like a private investigator. Yeah. So really known for that, and then did like a lot of TV, I think, throughout the 80s. And then if you're familiar with his career now, he's in Blue Bloods on CBS or whatever. So anyway, Tom Selleck, cool guy. So he does this movie called Her Alibi in 1989, and as like the leading man in this rom-com. First impressions, Sweetie, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, I feel like we skipped some things. So you were talking about Tom Selleck being handsome.
Yeah.
And that like awakened you.
Yes.
Okay. And then we're not going to talk about anyone else in the movie. We're going to just jump to first impressions. All right.
Yeah, I was going to start with first impressions, and we'll go into who's in the movie.
Okay. First impressions of like my first time watching it, or like right now. First impressions.
Yeah, both. Whatever. It's a free for all here at Large March Senate.
Very confusing today. I just wasn't prepared.
We haven't recorded in a while, and I'm a little rusty. Okay, I forget the protocol.
My mind wandered. So I don't remember watching this when I was young. I remember you talking about it all the time, being like, remember that movie, Her Alibi? Remember that movie, Her Alibi? I feel like, no, I never saw it. I don't know that movie. And then back in the day when Netflix sent you discs, DVDs, if you will, this was in our queue. Remember, he had a queue, and we got it, watched it, and I was like, okay, that's that movie, and I found it charming, small, like I don't know. I didn't remember too much about it except that Paulina Poriskova was the woman in it, and I thought that was like LOL because I was obsessed with America's Next Top Model, and she was a judge for a couple cycles of that.
Okay.
So I think that was my main draw when I saw it for the first time.
Okay.
This time I just kind of like was like, what is the point of this movie?
Yeah.
Like they could have just like solved everything if they just told us like what they thought, like, these guys killed him, not me. Like if we just found that out at the beginning, it could have been a lovely rom-com where they like get to know each other and he finds out she's in the circus. Spoiler alert. I don't know. I just feel like it was weird.
I agree, and I was like somewhat disappointed in it because I had like such fond feelings. This is a case of like nostalgia really letting you down. Because I was like, yeah, what is this movie about? Like, why was this made? It just it felt like almost like it could be like an episode of like a TV show or something. I don't know. It was just like so unsubstantial.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was like a bummer. But I still like it in a lot of ways, and like I said, like still like love dreamy Tom Selleck. Okay, so this movie was from 1989. So as we always say, golden year of sweetie cinema, as you know, a lot of movies for us that we liked or remembered came out in 1989. I don't know why. What's the coincidence there? I think we told this to Jimmy. He's like, which ones? And we were like, So we couldn't remember.
But I think like The Lost Boys was one.
There's a lot. If we go
there's
back,
like a big one. Maybe
I'm
Back
gonna
to
go
the
back.
Future.
I'm gonna go back when I make the post and I'm gonna write down a couple just so we have this
like,
proven
boom,
thing.
boom, boom,
exactly.
boom, boom, boom. Watch out!
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Because I know it's true. We say it a lot. And so starring Tom Selleck, obviously, as Sweetie said, Paulina Poriskova, who our generation might know as Sweetie said, judge on America's Next Top Model. Is that correct? But
Yes.
also there was this commercial, and I do not remember what it was for. But remember, she was like all modelly and whatever, and it might have been in black and white. And she's like Poriskova. She would like pronounce her last name. It was for something like jeans or something. I don't know.
What does that have to do with the jeans? Her real last name.
I'll find it. But I remember that was like a commercial in, let's say, like the 90s that was like pretty famous. She's also or was married to the lead or one of the lead guys in the band Cars. So she was like a rocker wife. Wow. And unfortunately that guy died in 2019, and she's the one who found his body. They were estranged at the time. They were separated. But she went over to go check on him or something because he had just had some kind of surgery and he was dead. So he had some complication or something. So very sad.
Yikes.
But she is fucking beautiful. Okay, she's pretty young in this. I'd say probably like early to mid 20s. Skinny as a rail. You think you could blow her over, but you learn she's a circus acrobat and actually quite strong.
Spoiler. I mean, that's the whole point of the movie, I guess. Like, I always thought the circus element was like, you knew that right away.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was the entire like thing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if the way you got me to watch this was saying that she was a circus performer. I think, but that's just spoiling it.
Right. But I also think that that's why I liked it a lot more as a kid too, because I was like, ooh, circus, like cool, she's a clown. But she wasn't just a clown. She had like all these other circus skills because, like you said, that like comes into play with like most of the stuff happening in the movie. And then the only other kind of famous person is William Daniels, who is Mr. Feeney on Boy Meets World. So he's like the Tom Selleck character is a writer, and that's his agent. So he becomes his like little sidekick. We'll go into that more in the plot. So yeah, cute movie, but sort of pointless. I can't imagine, like, I don't know, like, would you be going to this in the theater? I don't know. If you were a big Tom Hanks fan, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
didn't seem like it did very.
Yeah.
Hasn't performed very well on IMDb.com.
Yeah, exactly. And like, was the sparks there? If this is a rom-com, like, were they a good pair? Apparently, according to trivia, they hated each other. Paulina and Tom couldn't stand each other, and
to the
point
sad.
they couldn't be.
that.
I know, I hate that so much too. But oftentimes that produces like really good chemistry on screen because they have this like sort of fire, which really is more hatred, but that can like.
Are you thinking of Jennifer Grey and
Yes,
Patrick
I was.
Swayze?
Also because I just had this discussion. I was at my friend's house the other day, and her son, we were talking about that for some reason. And he had like pulled up this list, and I can't remember it now, but like all these actors who didn't like each other, like, you know, they're supposed to be really romantic and actually like did not get along. Jennifer Grey, Patrick Swayze being probably one of the most famous. But anyway, Paulina and Tom hate each other so much they couldn't even be in the same room to do the photo shoot for the poster, which is like them together.
Yeah.
And so they just took it separately and then like merged the photos to make the poster.
Why do they hate each other so much? I want the details. I want the dirty deets.
I want the deets too, but also like be professional. Just show up for the thing and fucking act. I don't understand, like,
Fucking weird.
you're getting paid $1 million and you can't just like suck it up for a day. I mean, I don't like everybody either, and you just got to show up. Anyway, so yeah, so as we said, we watched this movie a couple of days ago and then are going to attempt to do a synopsis, so bear with us. It might get wild, but this is like a pretty zany movie anyway, so
Try to follow along.
yeah, try your best. It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yeah,
Sweeties.
whoa. Sorry. How do you say in Romanian, get lost, dickface?
Like that line.
And for the record, Paulina Poriskova is Czech.
I know. I looked that up at the time, and I was really surprised.
I know.
Really
I mean, to
surprised.
Hollywood, they're all the same, formerly, you know, communist countries.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Okay. Phil Blackwood is a terrible mystery writer who resides in...
Wait, based on what?
The fact that he reads aloud his thoughts while he's typing his stupid stories, and they're terrible.
Yeah.
It's like
Pulpy.
they're like romance pulp novels, but detective novels.
Yeah,
It's like bullshit. It's like he saw the door, threw it open. It was just like so weird. It was the weirdest thing I ever heard.
Is that a genre, or was that made up for like Hollywood or for
It's
this
not a
movie?
genre that I know.
Yeah,
Like
me neither.
I only know different levels of detective novels. I mean, like maybe like pulp detective novels, but I don't think they were that trashy. I don't know. It's terrible. Whatever. So he's unfortunately has, you know, what all great writers, quote unquote, have, which is writer's block from time to time. So he's like needs an idea. He's looking for ideas. Where does Phil Blackwood go to source his ideas, sweetie?
The courthouse. So I think he lives in New York City, right? I think he lives in New York City.
Yeah.
Apparently,
yeah.
You could just go and sit in a courthouse, and you know people are getting brought up for arraignments. So they're charged with a crime. They get brought in front of a judge. You know, guilty, not guilty. Blah blah blah. You've all seen Law and Order. And he has like this little murder mystery club where I think he's the only writer, and then all these other old people are just like the gossip or something.
I don't know. Who
Maybe
those
they are
other old
writers.
people
I don't know.
I don't know.
Undetermined.
Not sure.
But they are all like in this like little club, and they go every day or once a week or whatever to the courthouse and just get. And for Phillip, he's getting ideas for his novels. So usually it's pretty boring shit until one day, murder. Someone gets arraigned for murder, and who would it be but a hot model?
Oh, wow. Yep. That'll do it. Yeah. So in walks a hot model, and he's like, okay,
Nina.
no one who is beautiful can kill someone is his reasoning, which is like, I'm sorry you've gotten this far in life, sir, but like you're gonna be disappointed. So that's his whole like logic. So he's like, she can't be guilty, I love her, and he's obsessed. So she's very aloof and like it appears not to speak the language, so it's just like this mystery. We don't know anything about this story. We just know there was like some Romanian guy was stabbed with a pair of scissors, and she was like there, I guess.
Yep.
And so that's what happened. So she's arrested, and it's like, yeah, she seems pretty guilty to me. So he decides this is his next story, but also I love her, so he's like kind of doing like a shady like two for one, or whatever, maybe the other way around, I don't know. So his whole plan is to dress up as a priest and pretend like he's going to do some priest things, last rites or some, I don't know,
Confession.
like whatever. Like, what do they do for prisoners? I don't know. Kill them all.
Confession.
Like, what a psycho. I'm a psycho. So yeah, so she's like, listen, who are you? And pretty much we find out, okay, she can speak English. She's from a communist country, so she doesn't believe in religion. So that was stupid. Phil, do your history.
But she
Phil.
does. I mean, she has a crucifix necklace. Remember that? He's like, oh, what's this? And like, you're not supposed to have religion, but like,
then what's that about? What is that supposed to mean?
Well, she just said that, so he'd like go away.
God, everything's turned on its head now. I don't know how to handle this. Well, anyways, yeah. So, okay. I guess it can go on.
Yeah.
Still, without
Yes. So his whole plan, though, is to provide her an alibi. Ding,
her
ding, ding.
alibi.
Even though he doesn't know her, but he wants, he
sleep
doesn't.
with her.
He wants to sleep with her. I guess that's his. Okay. So his first motive is like, I'm going to use her, to help me write this story. And as inspiration or like a muse for my new crime novel, but also, probably more importantly,
love her.
Yeah, he wants to bone her. So she's like, okay, cool. Like if that'll get me out, like sure. So then he like goes to the cops and is like, hey, like we're dating. We met at one of my book signings. She was with me that night. Boom, it's an alibi.
Done.
I mean, that's all it takes. That's pretty cool.
That's all it takes.
I need to be reminded of that if I ever get accused of a murder or know somebody.
But then don't they have to check out your alibi? Like, don't they have to like follow that up and make sure that like you weren't someplace else?
Yeah.
So they have to like prove that either you
If
were
they
there
were
or
good
you
cops,
weren't
but,
there.
like I wasn't get the feeling that these guys were like really like astute
Yeah.
detectives.
Yeah, they didn't seem great.
So she's like, whatever, I'll do whatever you want. Like I'm like, fine. So she gets out and he's like waiting for her outside the car with like flowers, and she just takes the flowers and walks by him. She thinks she's just free. And he's like, no, like you need to come with me to my house in rural Connecticut. Okay, that's a little
weird
sketchy.
now that I think about it. Yeah.
I don't feel good about that.
No.
Like you don't have to do
weird.
anything, but
It's really weird.
They need to like pretend, I guess, that they're dating to further convince the cops, because the cop does show up at his house. So I guess that was like part of it anyway.
Sure.
But
I guess.
it's not a bad situation because Phillip Blackwood is rich and has a sick mansion in Connecticut.
Who knew? People are buying shitty books. Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. So he's it's not a bad plan. So he takes her to Connecticut, and she's again kind of being aloof, but like kind of slowly warming up to him. And he and they start to kind of just like live a life there. Meanwhile, he's not sure. He's not completely convinced she didn't kill the Romanian guy. So in the back of his mind, he's like, okay, I maybe have invited a murderer into my house. Maybe I'm next, you know? So there's that element too. It's like this, okay, I'm extremely attracted to this dangerous person and really a stranger.
And then all these like fucking
and all these weird things start happening.
Shit starts happening. And so he starts to suspect like she's practicing archery and then like shoots him in the leg with an arrow by accident, even though she's really good at archery. The butt. And then she like tries to like kind of run him over with the car one time, and like all these, she can kill bugs with like throwing a knife at the wall, like kind of like weird things.
Kind of the weirdest thing, and one of the funny parts of this movie. Apparently, this house in Connecticut has like a crazy bug problem because there's
stag beetles,
giant. Okay, stag beetles. I didn't know what those were, but cool.
I know that because of Animal Crossing, and I catch the bugs, and I know. Okay, you know what a beetle is.
And
you know what a stag beetle is.
Giant
if you know, you know.
Cockroaches like the size of like a like Pop-Tart are like crawling around the walls, and she like, instead of, you know, normal people would like grab a magazine and swat it. She grabs like a butcher knife and is able to like throw the knife at the wall and spear these bugs. So that's a little weird, right? In Philip's mind, he's thinking, oh, wow, she's just like very good with a knife, aka probably a murderer. But you learn there's a reason why she has these like very talented. She's very talented with her knife skills, yes. Throwing knives in particular.
Yeah, but basically it's like just shenanigans for most of the movie. Right. I would say
so you said garage door, the arrow in the butt, the bomb, his house. Someone plants a bomb.
The bomb.
And you do see
the bomb. There's a bomb.
You do see some like weird Romanian dudes like stalking her though.
Yeah, Romanian thugs. Yeah. They were bad business
from the very beginning because they try to like help her out, and she's like, "Fuck you." So you know that they're probably behind all the shenanigans, as Sweetie said.
Yeah.
And then there's a poison stew one too, which is probably one of the better
scarring. You know, I can't believe,
sad scenes.
Can't believe that you were like, yeah, let's watch this movie where like two of your like worst fears of all time are in one scene.
I mentioned it so nonchalantly
like,
too.
A cat dying and people puking. Yeah. Like, cool.
I mean, it shook me as a child, and the scene that like stuck out the most for me for sure, but also is kind of funny. So all this shit is happening, but they do finally like make something of their relationship, and they do sleep together, and then they become what seems to be like an official couple. So then this poisoning stew scene happens, and we'll go into that more later, but it comes about that she finally realizes that he still thinks that she may be a murderer. So, like, that's too much for her, and she's like, I'm fucking out of here because, the trust is gone. I mean, she wasn't being very, like, wasn't telling the truth at all either.
Right.
So,
now that I think about it, like, what did he even know about her? Like, where did she come from? Why is she here? Why?
Well, she just lied.
She in this place
she's like, I'm a receptionist from Romania. She didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So I forget why. Oh, he like listens in on a phone conversation or finds something in her stuff. Again, kind of spying, creepy, about Grimaldi. And Grimaldi was this famous British clown. And there's the funeral of Grimaldi where one day a year, all the clowns come together and, have like a big celebration to honor this old famous clown. So he starts putting two and two together, and he's like, "Oh, I think this is all related." And they go and meet up at this funeral of Grimaldi, and he sees her with two, like a group of people who end up being her sister and her parents, and they're all dressed as clowns because they are from the circus.
Cool. The clowns, and so they're trying to be freed from the Soviet Union, whatever that's
defection.
Called. What?
They want to defect.
Defection. So I still don't understand like the full arc of like, so then who are the other Romanian guys who are like chasing her? Like where do they fit into this with the family?
Yeah. So you find out that they are these famous clowns from Romania. Now this happened a lot with people who wanted to defect to America. These communist countries did not want to lose these what they called like national treasures. So my experience, I know like from the ballet world, so Baryshnikov and Rudolf Nureyev defected, and that was like a huge blow to Russia because they were like these mega stars. And if the population saw, it was pretty miserable there, communist countries, right? Not a great time. If the population would see these famous people being like, I'm fucking out of here, then like it would cause like unrest. So they didn't want that to happen. So they would try to stop these defections from happening. So what happened is they wanted to defect, and they got this Romanian student to help them, like I guess contact the State Department, because it's kind of like seeking asylum a little bit. So I think you have to work with the U.S. government to basically give you protection and allow you to come in. I mean, I don't know like what the immigration rules were at
like,
that
in
time.
my head, I'm like, you're not allowed to just leave your country and go wherever you want.
That's the thing with the communist country. It was like the craziest fucking thing. Like you could, what does make sense to me is like you could come here, but I remember with the ballet stuff, like Baryshnikov and Nureyev, they had like handlers. So like even if they came to the U.S. or they traveled, like people would be with them, so they couldn't like just sneak away and defect. They did end up doing that, but like it was very, very serious. So they get this student to help them out, and then these Romanian thugs, they must work for the Romanian government, got wind of this, didn't want to lose these like national treasures, these circus performers, and so they got into an argument and killed the student. So Nina was there, but it was like these Russian thugs that like killed the student. So her family went into hiding, and then she kind of got pinned for the murder, yada, yada, yada. So all this comes out in this like funeral of Grimaldi, where they're all dressed as clowns, including Tom Selleck and his little sidekick and the bad guys. So then there's this big kind of to-do. Tom Selleck beats up one of the clown bad guys, but then immigration and the police do arrive and end up like getting the real killers. And Nina and her family are able to remain in this country, and she has a new boyfriend in Phillip Blackwood.
And he's rich.
And he's rich as hell.
Don't have to be clown if you don't want to, sweetheart. Like, yeah.
Right. And then through this, oh, sorry. So we missed the part. Through this whole thing, he is writing a novel, the crime novel about her. Terrible, pulpy crime novel, very sexist, terrible writing about, with her as the main character. And she finds the novel, and actually that's why she gets upset and leaves. But I guess she wasn't too upset, and it didn't come between them because he does end up publishing it. It's called Her Alibi.
And they're like on the cover, like a likeliness to them,
right,
kind of thing. So meta.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's it. Case closed.
Case closed. Do they make it? I'm thinking.
I don't know. He's like, I mean, he's rich. He's just like, is he going to set up her family for success? I hope so. And
I mean,
like,
what did they? I mean, with all these 80s movies, it's like, what do you have in common except that she's hot?
Right. And I'm just thinking, like, if he hadn't forced her to come live with him, and she could have just done whatever she wanted after she was released, wouldn't she have found her parents immediately, and then they would have like, this would all have been fine?
Well, she kind of kept trying, but those Romanian thugs were like watching her and like trying to kill her because like all this shit was happening, right?
Yeah, this
or
guy
trying
sucked.
to kill Philip or something. Phil. So yeah.
Phil.
So like kind of like a funky plot, doesn't really come together.
I don't get it still.
But yeah, it's still confusing to Sweetie. Maybe it's confusing to you other people.
Who's the student again? Where did he come from?
Okay, he was like a student. It's New York City.
I blinked out for a second.
He's like a student at NYU in like, Romanian studies or something. So they find him and they try to get him to help them defect because he knew Romanian. They were dealing with like some language barriers here.
They have to defect, even though they were already in the United States.
Yeah.
They still needed to find a way to defect. They can't just like walk into the government and be like, help.
Yeah, I don't know. We would need to do more research on defections. Again, I don't know how that worked in 1989, especially with like our relations with Russia and communism and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, very
True.
So I don't think they could just like let people in. I mean, you're watching The Americans, like, what, what the fuck happened?
It's crazy. Yeah.
So that is the flick. So I guess, okay, so let's talk about the traumatic scene, because this is, so like we said, there's all these shenanigans that happen. So like you have knives being thrown at cockroaches, again, like all these little things that pop up with her and these talents she has, you figure out it's because she's this circus performer. So the knife throwing, she does,
and like
this
a multifaceted circus. Like, I don't know too many people that are like, oh, I do knife throwing, tumbling, acrobats, trapeze, tightrope. Like, she's doing all this shit. I've never heard of that.
Maybe that's
she can do
just
it all.
how it was. I know, crazy. So
I don't know. Pretty sure you just had one thing. You had one thing. I'm a horse person. I'm the lion tamer.
Right.
Like, you weren't like doing all this shit.
yeah.
I don't know.
So there's there's all these things that happen. So like this like son, a family friend, like gets stuck on top of a barn, and like everyone's trying to rescue him, and she like hops on a horse and like climbs up the barn and does like a tightrope walk and all these like crazy moves to get him down. Like, so they're kind of realizing like she's probably not like a receptionist or whatever is what they thought. So then there's a scene where they've slept together at this point. So they're like all romantic and cute. And he goes to his friend's or his brother's house for dinner. And she says, oh, I'm making this special Romanian stew. And it's a tradition that the woman who makes the stew doesn't eat it with you, but you have to like set a place for her. And like, I can't be here. I'm going to go for a walk. And
Does she get to eat it later?
I think I don't even know if that was a real tradition, because she kind of used it to like get away from the house. Because
that would be funny.
She rendezvous with her sister. She rendezvous with her sister, but she's using this as an excuse to like get away from them, because he's like with her all the time.
Because it's like, what shitty bullshit anti-woman tradition is this?
Yeah, it kind of was. But so she makes this like what looks like a goulash and leaves the house, and Tom Selleck, Phillip, takes some and feeds it to the cat. Beeswax is the cat's name. So they all sit down to dinner. They're having a great time. And again, in the back of Philip's mind is like, okay, I love this woman. We've now boned. Like, I'm invested, but I'm still don't 100% trust her. So they're cleaning up after dinner, and he's waiting for Nina to come home. And he sees little Beeswax like passed out next to the food bowl. And he's like, Beeswax? Beeswax? And he goes and nudges him, and Beeswax is dead. So he jumps immediately to, again, she's a murderer, and she poisoned the stew, and we are all now going to die. What ensues is like a crazy trip to the hospital to get their stomachs pumped. It's very disturbing. Between the dead cat and this stomach pumping thing, they come out of the hospital with like what I remember like puke stains all over their clothes because they had like made themselves vomit. I hated that part. I was like so scared by it.
Isn't that what getting your stomach pumped is? It forces you to throw up.
Well, they put like a tube down there though.
Yeah, and then they like put stuff down there, and then you barf it up.
Well, and it was like the worst thing to barf up because it was like this orange brown stew, right? And like I feel like everyone's wearing like pastels or white, so you can really see it. Yeah, it's really horrible.
I blocked it out and did again until you just started talking about the detailed color.
It's truly bad.
Barf.
I know.
So
it's disgusting.
Now I'm.
So they get home, and the neighbor's like, "Oh, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Like, so your cat was playing around in our basement and must have like chewed on an electrical wire and electrocuted himself. And my wife didn't want to bother your dinner party, so snuck into the back of your house and put the dead cat's body in there and was going to tell you later."
God.
I was like, who is this psycho woman?
Is this?
You knock on the door and you say, "I'm
That's not
sorry."
what you do. Or here's an idea: wait until the dinner party's over, and then go over there and tell them the news. You know, like what?
I mean, that
So weird.
That was
no accountability.
Yeah, no accountability.
Nothing.
That woman
Just like
clearly is
poor
not a pet person.
Beeswax. R.I.P. Beeswax. I'm just so upset.
It was
So
just
upset.
it was just really sad. like, note to everyone who listens to this podcast, please never do that to someone who has a cat. I mean, that is just like a terrible, terrible thing. And so, so come to find out, Beeswax not poisoned, died of electrocution, and Nina did not poison everyone. So they feel like assholes, as they should. That's a pretty big jump, to a cat. You find a cat dead, and you're like, he's
the
poisoned.
asshole.
Yeah. But funny scene, and like kind of clever, and one that like always sticks out for me in terms of this movie. Okay, so some questions for you. Tom Selleck, beard or no beard?
No beard.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah, he had a beard at the beginning of this movie, and it was jarring. I didn't like it. I was like, who are you?
It just
Who are
looked, it wasn't like a well thought out beard. It felt like, I mean, I'm assuming they did it to show him in like writer's block phase, which was like, oh, I can't write, like I can't shave my beard, like my life is terrible.
No,
yeah.
Totally.
But yeah, I agree. It just didn't fit in with his face. And then when like the next scene, because he shaves it off when he goes to meet her, and it's almost like a gas moment. You're like, because it's like his mustache is so famous and it's so perfect, and he is like, I mean, the guy has great hair follicle situation, still pretty good. I think pretty decent. I think he's almost 80.
Oh my god.
So yeah. Also, Tom Selleck, slick or unslicked hair?
I mean, it depends on the mood. So, I mean, I'd say for most of the time, probably unslicked, right?
Yeah.
Slicked was like too fancy, and I kept being like, why is it gel in his hair before bed? So it was a shower.
I'm
He just
still
took a shower.
unclear why they made
tell
it
me.
such a big point that he was like a night shower, because it was like so consistent.
It was weird.
Like
I was
he'd
really
always shower
confused.
at night, so when he was like writing, his hair would be like this slick, wet from the shower, but it just did look like gel, and you're like, what is going?
Maybe
on
it's like
that?
regular people are just like active every day, so like maybe regular people do shower at night. I don't know.
I like a good night shower, and I have heard in some other cultures, I think when we had that Japanese exchange student, she always took night showers, and the deal with that is like you go through a whole day and you're in the elements and whatever, you should wash that off, and then your bed is clean.
Yeah.
Why do
It
we
makes
go
sense.
to
It makes
bed
sense.
like all dirty and get our sheets all dirty?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And we're doing it wrong.
Totally.
People.
But
We're doing it
but
wrong.
in the United States specifically, we use it as like a wake up routine, right? So that's why it's like in the morning versus at night. But I am I love showers. I'll take like 2 a day on the reg sometimes, because I just like feeling like clean and fresh.
Yeah, waste that water, baby.
Yeah. Go. And I'm gonna start doing it more, because I've been having some trouble sleeping now that I'm more like further along in pregnancy, and it really does like calm you down and can make you have like better night's sleep. So recommendation. Thank you, Tom Selleck, Phillip Blackwood, for your night showers.
Reminds me of being a kid. You'd always shower at night.
Yeah.
Take a bath at
Take
night.
a bath. I know.
Yeah.
See, kids were doing that. Like, why aren't we?
It is strange, yes.
I'd say in general, this is like a pretty sexist movie. From the way that Nina is talked about, like her body, like all the male characters. There's mostly male characters. There's very few female characters. And like all the cops are like, kind of saying all this weird stuff about her, and it's just so gross. And you're like, oh, you're supposed to be like an authority figure and keeping people safe, and you're just like a creepy sexist loser. I mean, I didn't feel good about it.
Yeah, and I felt like they really dumbed her down to like they kept doing this annoying thing where like to take the archery as an example. So the joke is at the beginning, she's like, "What's this, a bow?" and like picks it up, and he's like, "No, okay, here's how you use a bow. Step number 1, put your hand on the thing." And she's like, "What? Yeah." So she's like, okay, and then shoots the arrow and gets a bullseye, immediately. She's a crack shot. She can do it. So she's just shooting arrows, like boom, bullseye, right? So she's great at this. And then all of a sudden, this arrow comes flying through the door and into his butt. And like no one else could have shot that except her. So they just spent all this time being like, look how awesome she is. Go, girl. You get it, girl. Woo. And then it's like, just kidding. She's a fucking idiot. Got scared by a dog. Almost killed someone. It's like, what the fuck? I just hate it. And it just like, it brings back such PTSD of like how Game of Thrones ended. And like, just this like false sense of like, here's this great character and person that you should be rooting for. She's so great and powerful. Oh, she's a psycho. Don't worry about it. Move on. It's like stupid. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Just like let us have these great moments. Like stop dumbing us down for like comedic effect.
And she was a good character. I mean, she was like, whenever she got confronted by the Romanian goon, she really held her own. She'd be like kneeing them in the balls and doing like tricks on trampolines to get away from them. I mean, she could really stand on her own. She was like not messing around. So yeah, that is like a real shame.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been hit in the face by a pie?
I don't think so. I feel like I have from having watched so much Nickelodeon. Like I feel like maybe I have, but I haven't. So we should do that. So at some point.
This is like clown themed at the end because they go to the big funeral for that famous clown, like I said. So there's some pie throwing, which is very stereotypical of clown stuff, right? And it made me think, dang, like I've never been hit in the face with a pie. I just want to experience it once.
So here's my question: is that like what kind of pie are we talking about? So like sometimes
it's just cream.
What kind? So like you have the pies like on what would you do where like it's pure whipped cream out of a can, they squirt it in, it's super light, you get hit with it like barely any sticks on your face because it's like all air. And then there's the pies with like the thicker kind of like Cool Whip style kind of cream, right? Where it's just cream. But then I've also seen like chocolate pudding pies
or like
with whipped cream as a pie.
And a little crust, because I've seen those too, where
and
it's
a
like
little
a crust.
Yeah. And I'm like, and here's what my problem is why are we going through all this like effort and pain, turmoil, making this beautiful pie when I'm just gonna throw it in someone's fucking face? Like, why are you making a crust? Please stop. So I think it should just be Cool Whip.
There is a game, isn't there, called like Pie in the Face?
It's like a mini thing, and then you can like do it, and then you do it. But it's like tiny. I want like I want the experience.
Right. I just want the experience. Like I said, I feel like I need it on some sort of bizarre bucket list.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. Like, do you inhale a lot of cream in your nose? Do you feel like you can't breathe? Like, is it scary? Do you wish it never happened? Yeah.
Same with, I was thinking a dunk tank. Like, I would like to experience a dunk tank. Seems scary, yes, I know. But it's another thing, like, I always see it in pop culture stuff, and I'm like, dang, like, I want to do a dunk tank. So that just struck me, and the idea of like clown culture, and like, oh, pies like in the face.
Dunk tank is interesting because it's like not the point of it is that you're the thrower for the most part, right? Like you're trying to get somebody dunked. So who are the people that are being like, oh, you need somebody to sit in the tank? Sign me up. Like those people don't get anything except like a dip in the cold water in this like teeny tank, right? Like I'm just confused. What's the allure?
The only time I've seen it used, like, have I seen a dunk tank in real life? I think I'm pretty sure I have, and it's usually in like
Windmill Weekend.
Yeah, fundraising carnivals, and it's usually like people who are. Or like, Saved by the Bell had it. Yes, that's what I'm thinking. So like, Saved by the Bell had it. Grease has that scene. It's like the coach that you like want to do bad things, not bad things, but these authority figures, and like it's a harmless thing. They're just falling in water. But yeah, I might have missed my dunk tank chance. I don't know when like I would be able to do it.
I just remembered, I think I maybe did it, and it was like someone I didn't know, and I was like, who am I trying to get done? It didn't make any sense.
It's only fun if you really knew the person. If it's just like a rando, you'd be like, like who cares? But anyways, agreed. Okay, so then I just have a couple 80s things to talk about. So this is late 80s, so you start to creep into technology playing a bigger role, I'd say, than like early 80s movies or even mid 80s movies. So
I mean, let's remember the net was in what, 1995?
Yeah.
So
right. So
was ahead
this
of his
is
time.
very, I mean, no internet yet, but you did have computers. And you had, unbeknownst to me in 1989, a laptop made by Zenith, which was like a TV maker, right?
Screens. Yeah. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an umbrella term.
Yeah. So it's just like
Also,
very,
they probably do motorcycles too, because why not?
Yeah, maybe.
You know,
Very
Engines,
basic computer,
screens.
very like that old word, you really only had like word processing on there, and it was like that same kind of like font. And you see like Phillip Blackwood just like typing with 2 index fingers, like do. Like, is that really effective use of your time? I mean, he handwrites sometimes, but typewriter that shit until you can like learn how to type. Whoa.
Yeah. But
Totally
then, like,
crazy.
and at this point, like, where is that going? Like, was he putting it on a disc?
Yeah.
Was he bringing that thing everywhere?
Floppy disk.
He had a floppy disk.
Yeah, those would take floppy disks. Yeah.
But they show him in this being like, here's my, like, draft. Like, I'm just like, so does he gives him the disc? and
How do you
then-
print from there though?
Right. I'm just
That's
like, what was technology? I don't know.
Because he does print it out, because remember then we commented on the connected computer paper. So either he does or the cops do, maybe, I forget.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
But we were like, oh man, remember the connected computer
Love
paper,
the
guys?
connected computer paper. And then you would rip off the ends, and then you would make it into a little caterpillar guy. And we were like obsessed with that. And we would like draw like eyes and be like, look, here he is, and be like, woo. And then sometimes, you'd rip off a piece of the actual paper with the edge, and you'd be like, fuck. And then it sucked.
But we
Just take
knew
that off. Take that off for us.
we really made it once we got the printer that you had to buy individual sheets for. That's when you had the good stuff.
Yeah. Totally. I'm trying to think now. I'm like, is it? It did make a little sense that it was all connected, but not really.
Yeah.
No, because you'd want to like flip a page, not be like bleep, like open it up like a fucking map or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Totally.
vertical map.
Um,
Scroll. That's what I meant.
Philip has a car phone, so pretty ubiquitous in late 80s TV and movies. You would have cars. Still don't understand how that technology works, but a car. And they were usually fancy. He had like a little Porsche or something like that. With, in the middle console here, a phone that you could receive calls and make calls from. Pretty cool. Don't know how that works. I mean, I guess it was some kind of wireless or satellite technology. I mean, we don't know. It's confusing. But wow, you must have been, well off to have one of those.
Do people have car phone? No, because we have cell phones.
Yes.
We've talked about this. Yeah.
Eliminated
you don't need
that
it.
need.
You don't need it anymore. You just have this phone. Okay, that's right. I remember.
Suburbans. So Philip's other car is a Suburban, his Connecticut country car. And that always reminds me of the 80s because, you don't see those as much now. I think they're still around. They're a little bit more like rounded, but his was like the cool box. The box one that we had, because we had this blue, like rusted out shit box one. But, and like, where did we get that car? Whose was it? I don't know the story. I was very, very young. I was probably like 2 years old.
I wasn't really around for that.
Yeah, I don't think Sweetie was even alive. Creepy 80s ponytail / low man bun. So the brother has this hairstyle.
I was trying to explain to my friends, Frankie and Alice, that the reason I'm not like super into guys with like kind of long hair is because of 80s and 90s movies who like villainize men with longer hair and man buns. And so now when I see people with that, I'm like, oh, you're a villain. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work out. And I blame these movies. I really do. Because it's literally all those people are always the bad guys.
I know.
And that's their hairstyle.
Yeah.
Always.
It's always like weirdly slick. I mean, did you have to use a lot of gel to form it into that style? So creepy. I'm thinking like Adventures of Babysitting. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, the David Duchovny character. I mean, and the brother isn't a bad guy in this, but it's just, I mean, you can tell he's kind of a weasel, but he's not like bad.
Who?
The brother is the one who has the ponytail. or it's actually like a bun. It's like a ponytail that he
Tom
like.
Selleck's brother?
Yeah, who owns
He
the
had a
house?
brother?
Yeah, who
I don't
owned the
remember
house?
him.
Who they had the cat incident took place at?
That was his house.
Yeah,
That was his
brother,
brother.
yes.
But they're like friends.
No, it's his
Who's
brother.
Mr. Feeney then?
His publisher.
Was he at the dinner party?
Yeah.
Was everyone at the dinner party?
Well, it was his brother and his sister-in-law, his publisher and his wife, and then I don't know who that other older couple was. Just like friends of somebody.
Wasn't she in the murder club or something?
Oh, maybe she was in the murder club.
Yeah, I don't know.
Good point.
You know, it's confusing. It's a confusing movie. I stand by it.
Okay, and the last thing is home phones with multiple lines. So he like listens in on her phone conversation, and it's like they show a shot of the phone, and it had like 1, 2, 3, 4, and he like sees like the 2 lit up, so he like presses it, and then he can like listen in. What? Do you remember this? We had a phone like that for a while.
No, not one that you could listen to the calls on.
No,
we had
but
2 lines.
but that were different lines. Yeah,
Yeah. But we didn't have a device where you could be like, and now I'm going to listen to this person's conversation.
I think we could have.
What?
Yeah, we had that because it had different numbers, and you could be like, "Oh, like I'm on this line." It would be you would only have one number, but there were like different, like, line.
I guess. I just think the phone. Yeah, it was interesting. But the Chipmunk Adventure has this capability too. And Claudia's like, remember, she's like, she sees that someone else is on the other line, so she. Yep, amazing. Yep, amazing.
A lot of like phone stuff I brought up. I'm sorry.
Phones. It was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Back then.
That's all we had.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I guess looking back, I just wish there was more circus stuff, like all the time, like at the top, you know, like I wish I knew that this was a circus stuff. And I wish that she just embraced the circus stuff right away. It was just like, hey, I'm a circus performer. I'm trying to get, I wish they just like told us the facts and that they didn't keep this a secret, because I think it cheats her character in some way. Yeah. And I think that if they had just been like, okay, here's the sitch. I'm a circus performer. My family and I are defecting. We have to do this. We have to do this. And these guys are after us. So then it just becomes a romantic comedy where they're trying to get away from these bad guys instead of like, is she trying to kill me or do I love her, or both? And it's like, it's dumb. So like, I feel like this is where you need a script doctor. And that's what I would have told them had I been the script doctor.
I mean, do you think that they continued to be circus performers once they became, they defected? And
I hope
and
so. It
lived
seemed
here?
like their livelihood,
Yeah.
and their like passion, and they were really good at it. So I hope so.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they were in
That
New
would be
York,
sad.
Big Apple Circus. I mean,
There you go.
that's probably
Done.
why they zeroed in on New York City. And she's got a lot of skills and can probably do anything within the circus.
Do anything.
Yeah.
Literally anything.
So yeah, sweet movie, but slightly disappointed. This is one for me that just didn't really live up to my own hype.
live up.
It
happens.
It does happen, and we've been really lucky. We've been really pleasantly surprised about all the movies we still like.
The Caravan of Courage. Come on. Oscar winner.
So good.
I mean, I knew that wasn't going to be good, but I think it did live up to what I remember it being. Like, it brought back a lot of memories of why I liked it.
Oh,
I guess.
exactly.
So, yeah. I don't know. It's fine. It's a great movie. All right. Anything else? Nope. Okay. Well, have you by chance seen this movie? I'm not sure if you have. I mean, I don't know many people that have seen this movie. But if you have,
I like to do these ones that are, because this is how we get random fans.
this is how we get the real.
Because the 5 people who have seen this movie in the United States are looking for a podcast about it, and
It's
then
a
they're like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, you're right. It's a shoe-in. It's a shoe-in. We just like get 5. Boom.
5 whole fans.
Yes. Woo. Yeah. So come find us on Twitter at the Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Santos. Thank you as always for listening. Bye.
Bye.